If I had to speed run an agency to $1 million a year as quickly as possible, here's exactly how I'd do it. And I'm going to explain this process step by step. So by the end of this video, no matter if you're just starting out or you're wanting to go from mid six figures to that first 7-figure year, or maybe you're already well over $1 million a year and you're just trying to add that next million, this video is going to explain exactly how I would do it. Now, to be abundantly clear, I'm not guaranteeing by the end of this video that you have a high likelihood of hitting $1 million a year with an agency or any business for that matter. I'm strictly saying this is how I would do it if I were to start all over again and want to get there as quickly as possible. Now, why the heck would you listen to me on this? Well, I've been building agencies and brands for the last 10 years. In that time, I've founded 3 businesses that all went from 0 to over that $1 million a year mark and went on to do multi-million-dollar years. I also sold my first agency when I was just 21 years old. But the most important thing that you can understand is speed running an agency to over $1 million a year really comes down to 3 core pillars. Number 1 is the money model that funds it. 2, the exact acquisition channels and when I would launch them. And lastly, who I'd hire, when I would hire them, and how I would pay them. So if you run an agency between 0 and 100 grand, the bottleneck to you scaling likely lies in the next few minutes. Let's get onto the game board and I'll show you what I mean. Now, I look at this like a big game of Super Mario where we're going to be progressing through different levels, different pitfalls to look out for. So without further ado, let's get into our first world over here, which is really nailing down our money model, okay? This is gonna be from month 1 to month 2, and here's you at the starting line. So our very first level that we need to knock out is building an offer that is front-loaded as a sprint. Now, all a sprint is an accelerated block of work we're gonna do to get our client their dream outcome in as soon as possible, and we're gonna charge a premium for that work. So if this was me, I would be charging somewhere in the neighborhood of around $12,000. And I'll get to why that dollar amount is important a little bit later on, but they are going to pay this in full and they are buying an outcome, right? They are buying a defined result versus, hey, we'll manage something for you. It's no, we're going to get this for you in a specific amount of time, okay? Now, progressing on to level 2, once we actually have that sprint defined, our goal is to get them on a recurring offer and ascending them to that offer at a rate of around 50%. Now, I'd be charging somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $5K for this recurring retainer that they're going to continue on after the 60 days. And notice how the cost difference between these two, perception-wise, is quite large. So they're paying for that outcome. And then, hey, for me to manage and improve the result of the thing you just bought is only a third of the cost. Now, what is the problem that you might run into at this phase? It's really failing to communicate how that sprint is going to get your client the end result. If you're not able to articulate that it's going to be worth the money and they're going to ROI on that, then you're probably going to be dead in the water here. So make sure however you package it can generate enough revenue and enough value for them to be able to command that price point. Now that really brings me to the offer anatomy, okay? So what are the components of this sprint offer? Well, we're gonna charge $12K for that sprint. They're gonna pay it all up front, like I mentioned. And if I was offering paid ads as an example, what would this offer be? Well, I'd probably say I'm gonna architect your offer, I'm gonna build you a funnel, and I'm gonna run the actual ad campaigns, and I'm gonna cut your customer acquisition costs by 20% in this 60-day time frame. Now, how am I going to quantify that end result for them? Well, I'm going to take what they're spending on ads and then multiply that by the 20% decrease in CAC, and then I'm going to get my potential savings and for them. If I'm offering lead gen, I might be doing a system build and saying, hey, I'm going to get you this number of booked appointments in this time frame. If I'm doing SEO, I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to do an audit, I'm going to do these technical fixes, and I'm going to launch this huge wave of content for you to really kickstart things, get you ranking as quickly as possible. Now, on the backside, my Ascension offer is going to be that lower priced recurring retainer. Now, my goal here is to ascend 50% of people you'll know if you've really hit this or can get to it if you're closing at a 20 to 30% ascension rate. That's really the minimum that I would accept with the goal of getting to 50, okay? Now, why does this work so well? Well, it really front loads cash into our business. It makes it easier for you to sell because you're not asking for 6 to 12 months out of the gate. You are saying, I'm going to get you a specific result in a specific time frame, which is the easiest type of offer to sell. And then you have that ascension to recurring revenue. So it really works out quite nicely. Now, after that, we can finally graduate into world number 2, which is really where we're going to be focusing on client acquisition primarily. So the first level that we really need to clear here is getting our first clients on this offer. And what I would recommend is custom looms, custom audits, outreach. Okay. I like LinkedIn outreach, but you can do it on Facebook, Instagram, pick your channel. Anywhere you can send a message is just fine depending on where your avatar hangs out. Mine hangs out on LinkedIn. If you work in an industry that's conducive and your ICP is there, I think it's super slept on. That said, if you're in something like home services or a more blue collar niche, typically it's not going to be the best for you. You're probably going to have to stick mostly to meta platforms, or of course, across the board, you could do cold email. Also, you're going to be spending $0 in ads. So this is really a sweat equity phase for these first couple months until you can sell your sprints. Another thing that I'm going to be doing here is really kickstarting the content flywheel and getting people to know, like, and trust me. So I'm going to be putting content out into the marketplace at volume so that I can understand what works, what I need to improve, and then I can scale up from there. Now, really, the next level of this is going to be launching paid ads. And you're going to get this nice little one-up token if you can launch paid ads initially, and you can skip the outreach side of things, because paid ads are by far the fastest way to get new clients into your pipeline as quickly as possible, specifically people that you actually want to work with within your ICP. And your funnel kind of does the qualifying there. Now, the thing of it is, if you don't have the cash to do it up front, you're going to need to clear level 1 first before you can actually have the money to dump into paid ads. But the good news is we have that 12K, that 15K, whatever we end up charging for the sprint, to dump into paid traffic. Now, your star power at this phase is really you, the founder, doing all of the setting and the closing. Because let's be honest, no one is going to do this as well as you can. And you don't yet even intimately know why someone would buy this offer, not buy this offer. I'm a big proponent that the founder needs to be the one actually managing this. Now, what is the pitfall or the Goomba at this phase? It's trying to delegate sales too early on, okay? You have the highest likelihood of closing sales at this phase, so don't shortchange yourself in trying to delegate it too soon. This is the highest leverage seat you could possibly sit in. So moving on to the customer acquisition cost payback math, okay? I'm going to show you the old model, and then I'm going to show you why this new sprint model works so well. So first off, we have, let's say, a $4,000 a month retainer. This might be close to what you're doing right now. And let's say we are acquiring clients through paid ads, which is the goal here in level 2. And let's say it costs us around $3,000 to acquire a customer. Well, on day 1, we've maybe pocketed $1,000, and it's likely going to be break even after our fulfillment cost. And then best case scenario, we're selling them on this $4K a month retainer. The result here, though, is that we're cash strangled. We really don't have any excess to test new creatives on ads. We don't really have the ability to hire anyone because we don't have the margins. And any churn at this level is going to crush you, because if a client leaves, I can't really push my acquisition very hard without redlining things and feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Now, the new way with the sprint is really charging that $12K up front day 1. Even if it costs me $3,000 to get that client, I have $9,000 to work with to really go harder onto paid acquisition or to hire the people that I need to. Plus, I'm getting this ascension rate every 60 days from those clients that I'm bringing in, and it works much, much better, and I'm going to close at a much higher clip than this right here, asking for $4K a month out of the gate for some longer time frame. So the result of this is I have a customer funded client acquisition machine, and I'm able to invest in ads, hires, and have a cushion if I end up churning out any of those accounts here from day one. All right, so now let's move up to world number 3. This is going to be right in that range of, hey, I'm at 40 to 60K a month at this point, and I'm ready to make my first hires. So what I'm going to be thinking about doing here is replacing myself in the actual doing of the work. Let's say I'm doing media buying or content or SEO. I want someone that can actually execute the work. Now, I'm not getting rid of client communications at this point because I still want to have those relationships with my customers up front, make sure that I'm not churning anybody, but I shouldn't be in the ad account. I shouldn't be writing content. I shouldn't be scripting things. That should be somebody else. And I'm going to make my first SOPs here so that they know how to do it and how to do it well. Then once I move to level 2, I'm going to bring in an account manager. And this account manager is going to handle all of the client communication for me. So my calendar isn't bogged down with client calls, and I'm able to continue focusing on sales and marketing, which is exactly where my attention needs to be at this phase. Okay. In level 3, I'm going to be making an operations hire likely so that they can actually be building the SOPs for me and managing the fulfillment teams. And once again, I can focus on networking, deal making, content creation, sales and marketing, and recruiting, which is really the highest leverage seats for an agency founder. Now, what is the problem you might run into at that phase? Well, it's really the founder continues to deliver, sales drop, your pipeline dies, and you get stuck in this hamster wheel. And I see it all the time in working with over 300 agencies at this point. People get stuck at this 40 to 60K a month mark until they process themselves out and hire themselves out of fulfillment. So really delegation is the key here. Now, as far as hiring goes, we have all of this new MRR as a base from our sprint offers converting into recurring revenue. So what I'm going to be able to do is afford those hires comfortably now versus feeling pinched because I've done the sprint and ascension model. Now, my first hire probably going to be somewhere in that 50 to 70K range a year. And they're going to be a solid hire. I'm not saying they're going to be top of the food chain because you can't afford top of the food chain talent yet, but you can get someone who knows what they're doing and their quality is on point enough to actually retain your clients. Then I'm going to have that account manager to stop eating my calendar with client calls. And then lastly, I might be making a creative hire to help me on the marketing side or an operations hire to really further systemize the business. Now, across the board in 2026 and beyond, I'm especially focused on how can I lean on AI or AI agents to handle some of this work for me? And do I need a hire truly, or do I just need to build a good system and I can kick the hires further down the line? Now, I'm not suggesting that you stay in fulfillment longer just because you have AI. If you feel your time getting sucked back in because you're trying to patch the work that AI is doing, just delegate it, because I promise you, you are costing yourself more in opportunity cost of getting new clients than you are in the cash you'll be paying out to a new hire. Now, once you've cleared these levels, congratulations. You should have completed the game and unlocked this $1 million a year in annual recurring revenue. Cool. You're going to get a nice little mushroom trophy here. And the 3 rules that you really need to make sure to not violate to make sure that this happens is having that premium priced sprint. I cannot reiterate to you enough how important this is, because it flushes the business with cash and allows us to actually scale acquisition harder and afford the people we need. Okay. Make sure you're targeting that 50% ascension rate. Rule number 2 is really nailing cold outreach in months 1 and 2, and then turning on the gas as soon as you can with paid ads, because that's really how we scale our pipeline and our client flow as quickly as possible. Paid will always win in that department. And rule number 3, you as the founder are going to close every deal until a minimum of $1 million a year. Then we can talk about it, but maybe a topic for another video. I recommend you stay in sales for the foreseeable future, well past $1 million a year. So what are your non-negotiables? Once again, closing the deals so you understand where the constraint is in the system. You're going to be able to see why the offer is or is not converting at a very detailed level. You're going to understand how the messages and the content you're putting out there relate to the quality of people that you're actually getting on the call and every metric within the sales pipeline in a way that an SDR is just simply not going to be able to do. Number two, your calendar only holds three things: sales, marketing, and a meeting or two a week where your team can report into you and tell you what's going on within the business. What is banned at this phase is random impromptu client check-in calls and random ops meetings. Okay, you need to protect your time to continue to pour it into sales and marketing. And number three, your offer is not priced or structured as a sprint, okay? The sprint is what allows you to support paid acquisition early on. If you don't have that, you're not going to be able to speed run this, and it's going to take you a lot longer. Am I saying that you can't build an agency unless you have a sprint offer? Absolutely not. But it is going to go slower because the money model isn't working in your favor. So if you break these rules, your speed run dies and it slows down. But that is how I would speed run an agency to $1 million a year in revenue if I had to do it all over again. And hopefully this was helpful to you. What would be super helpful to me is if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me reach a lot more business owners like you and helps me deliver valuable content to them. So really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.